Answer me this question. Does your body have a set of airbags attached to it? If you stood up from your chair right now and charged clear towards a brick wall, would you react by deploying a set of airbags from your body to protect you? I don't want to make any assumptions, but I was not personally blessed to be born with a set of airbags. My human form is merely a vessel for the clothes that I bought by the pound at the Hampton Goodwill. Great place, by the way. I got these jeans there. And if I should work with the general understanding that you, like me, are rendered to live an airbagless life, one where you cannot sprint into walls without regard or jump off a skyscraper then bounce onto another one, then surely you would understand that motorists, whose vehicles likely do have airbags, must stop for us mere mortals while we're crossing the street. After all, if you put me or probably anyone else up against a Ford F-150, the hulking pile of metal hurling towards me at over 10 over the speed limit would probably leave me with at least a small bruise. Yes, when I stand at the corner of Main Street every morning to cross the street so I can catch the bus to work, I feel comfortable, secure even, knowing that this mutual agreement exists between pedestrians and drivers. That if I'm waiting to cross or actively in the street, they will not plow me into the asphalt. I am just not built like a car. So tell me why I was graced with the knowledge of a new ad campaign from the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles telling me the opposite. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Clearly, the DMV doesn't have it out for people trying to cross a street. In fact, all they're trying to do is help reduce pedestrian fatalities. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety reported 7,522 pedestrian deaths in 2022, which is an 83% increase from 2009's total of 4,109. 2023 brought 7,318 pedestrian fatalities with it, still way higher than 2009. There are good people with good intentions that have worked on this campaign, so let's give it a chance, all right? Allow me to adorn the skills bestowed upon me in my marketing degree program funded by Big Ham so we can analyze what's going on here. The advertisement depicts a mother and baby duck emerging from a pond, the duckling christened with the title of Nature's Cutest Baby, as described by the charming and classy-sounding narrator. The little guy can't even get over the dang old branch without falling over. Come on! And then we see it. Enemy number one, the Virginia driver, just going to town on a Hot Pocket. The ducks enter the crosswalk with dignity and are treated with the nobility they deserve. The driver stops his vehicle to allow the ducks to pass while he watches in awe as they cross the street. Wholesome. I like it. Then, enemy number two appears, the pedestrian. Entering into frame with headphones on, phone in hand, and awareness for anything outside of her For You page left behind, she recklessly enters the crosswalk without confirming the driver sees her. The driver starts to creep forward, then slams to a halt, both the driver and pedestrian equally shocked at what just happened. We are then left with these parting words. When you cross the street, don't forget to look for cars. They'll stop for ducklings, but they might not stop for you. I get the intent behind this campaign. With all things equal, drivers and pedestrians should play an equal part in keeping each other safe. They both need to look out for each other. A driver can't just hook a right into an intersection while a pedestrian is crossing and blame it on the pedestrian. Similarly, a pedestrian can't just walk out onto a busy street with cars flying by and assume a driver won't hit them. With all things equal, this logic makes perfect sense. That's just it, though. In an entry-level economics course, your teacher may purposely exclude any externalities or outside factors for the sake of simplicity when explaining a concept. It makes things easier to understand at first, and more importantly, makes it easier to agree with the ideas and see how they could work in the real world when you don't think about it too hard. With all things equal, when people buy more Hot Pockets, the price will go up. With all things equal, the driver and pedestrian play equal parts in each other's safety. The reality, however, is just far more complicated. Suddenly, if Hot Pockets become a hot commodity for a variety of reasons, such as a taquito factory shutting down or trace amounts of mercury found in Totino's party pizzas, the frozen food market may view Hot Pockets as their only frozen food option and simply adjust to the higher prices due to the higher demand. Hot Pockets can then increase production to meet demand, but that doesn't guarantee that they'll become cheap again. The company could very well hold prices high to get higher profits, or people could stop buying frozen food altogether, potentially shrinking the Hot Pocket customer pool. There are so many moving parts, meaning there's a serious potential to miss a lot of detail in these oversimplified models if we never expand upon them. So, once again, with all things equal, pedestrians and drivers are equally at risk of each other. However, this simply isn't true. Drivers have the benefit of thousands of pounds of metal, a set of airbags, and often public opinion on their side. Pedestrians just have themselves, and the theoretical promise that they're protected against a collision by law. You cannot reasonably say, given the reality of a man versus car situation, that both are equally at risk of each other. Here's where the problem lies. All the good intentions in the world do nothing to change the broader narrative of how drivers and pedestrians are perceived in a crash. I'd argue that this ad actually paints pedestrians in a worse light than drivers. That driver may just be housing, absolutely wolfing down that microwave meat pastry, but at least he's looking at the road. Maybe it's not the correct part, but he still is. Meanwhile, the pedestrian is completely oblivious and isolated from everything. She has the sound-canceling headphones on, eyes completely locked on her phone, while blissfully and ignorantly stepping into the street, completely unaware of anything. And remind me, what is the message that we're left with? It's the responsibility of the pedestrians to watch for drivers. They'll stop for ducklings, but not for you. The driver isn't absolved of all responsibility here, but why should the pedestrian be placed in a position where she has to pay closer attention to what drivers are doing when she is in an insurmountably more vulnerable position? In the end, this does very little to make drivers feel like it's their responsibility to keep pedestrians safe. The responsibility is, instead, shifted onto pedestrians to keep themselves safe. After all, if someone gets hit crossing the street, what's your first instinct? Is it the driver's fault or the pedestrian's fault? I wouldn't be surprised if you think it's the pedestrian's fault. It's just our collective attitude. This campaign, whether intentional or not, reinforces this incredibly dangerous notion. You could blame this attitude on many things. You could blame it on how our roads and streets are designed, first and foremost, to move as many vehicles as possible at the highest speed possible. You could blame it on how many of these streets and roads are missing sidewalks and safe crosswalks. You could blame it on the fact that nearly 69% of people in the United States commute alone by car, and a mere 2.9% commute by walking or cycling. All these ideas come together to form the greater idea that the car is king, and anything else is just an afterthought, a burden, a pariah. But let's focus on one thing in particular, the law. We can debate all day about whether pedestrian safety is an issue of enforcement or something else, but let's at least look at the baseline expectation that we, as licensed drivers, should have. Thanks to this excellent 2022 report on pedestrian safety laws in the United States, we have a great picture of what things look like across the country. Surprisingly, or I guess not that surprisingly when you think about it, pedestrian law varies quite a lot depending on the state you're in. Unfortunately, our founding fathers did not have the foresight to enshrine the right to not be hit by a Subaru Forester in our Constitution, so it's up to the states to decide what's right. I'll give you a few examples from across the spectrum. Minnesota drivers must come to a complete stop for pedestrians anywhere in the road, whether they're in a painted crosswalk, unmarked intersection, or just in the middle of the road. Drivers in New Jersey have to stop for people within a marked crosswalk, but they only have to yield if someone is crossing at an unmarked intersection. In Louisiana, motorists are only required to yield if someone is crossing their half of the road. drivers on the other side don't need to do anything. And if you're a driver in Nebraska, you only need to yield to a pedestrian if they're within one lane of your car. Finally, for some fun added complexity, Massachusetts drivers must stop for pedestrians if they're within 10 feet of their car. Who's really out here in Massachusetts counting the feet between their car and the pedestrian next to them? They're all too strung out on lobster rolls to bust out the tape measure on Commonwealth Avenue. Where does the great Commonwealth of Virginia fall on this spectrum, you may ask? It's kind of all over the place, actually. Code 46.2-924 broadly asserts that drivers must stop when a pedestrian is crossing the road within the lanes adjacent to them, like Nebraska. This must happen at any clearly marked crosswalk, unmarked continuation of a sidewalk path through an intersection, or any intersection where the speed limit is less than 35 miles per hour. There goes that prioritizing traffic flow thing again. At least pedestrians have right-of-way over vehicles making turns in intersections, though. What's really strange is that a slew of random municipalities, most of which are in Northern Virginia, have the authority to put up signs at marked crosswalks specifically requiring motorists to stop for pedestrians attempting to cross the street. Not just those who are actively in the street, but those who are waiting to cross. Why the double standard? Why isn't this treatment standard across the Commonwealth and the country? With Virginia's pedestrian safety laws in mind, how about I give this whole crossing the street thing a try and see how it goes? I'll try the intersection that I have to cross every morning when I take the bus. Got the old Target brand shoes that look like I washed them and mud strapped on, and we're off. Here we are. Beautiful intersection of 22nd and Main and Richmond's finest Shockoe Bottom. Let's try it first, just waiting right before I step into the crosswalk. Let's just see how it goes. Technically not the law that they have to stop for me right here because I'm not in the crosswalk. I'm not actively crossing, but, you know, maybe some people just feel generous, you know? Help a guy out. Maybe. Not really seeing that yet. Okay. Give it another try. This time I'll step into the lane. Technically, this is when vehicles should be slowing down and stopping for me. The lane adjacent to them, that's when they should stop for me to cross. No takers? I'll go a little farther. I am absolutely staring these people down. I mean, we did all get our driver's licenses from the same place, right? That you gotta stop for the one who's not in the car. A little farther? Nope. The law is, we're in a lawless country. Pure pleasure truck. Nice. Oh. Burger? Hey, you know, who am I to judge? The back says, free lunch with a view. I will not be joining them on that offer. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. I'd appreciate it more if you stopped for me. Well, we have a vehicle the size of an average apartment in New York City. Love it. Many families have grown up in footprints smaller than that. People do keep staring at me, though. So, I do exist in their world. Just, not in the way that they'd have to respect my existence. Just acknowledgement that I am real, but I don't matter. And frankly, I think that's a very good place to be as a human. It makes me feel valued. I don't know what the hell I expected. I did. That's why I made this video. Frankly. I knew exactly what was going to happen. With all things equal, I should have been just as much of a threat to the drivers as they were to me. That just wasn't the case. This brings me to the other half of Virginia pedestrian law, how it treats pedestrians' judgment. Unless you're at select intersections in Northern Virginia or in Ashland, pedestrians are only protected once you've entered the crosswalk. But even so, if you've entered the crosswalk at a time deemed in disregard of approaching traffic, you're not protected by the law. Obviously, The intention behind this law is to prevent drivers from being held liable against reckless pedestrians making poor judgment decisions. But who's to say what a poor judgment decision is? Did I cut it just a little too close with one of the cars, rendering my decision a bad one? Was attempting to cross the street during rush hour a bad idea in the first place? Unlike the prescriptive natures of the laws applying to motorists, the pedestrian laws are nebulous, up to the interpretation of whoever's enforcing them. There's no universal standard of what's considered reasonable behavior. Pedestrians face an uphill battle. Not only is the law not on their side across the board, but public attitudes aren't either. At the very least, the Virginia DMV shouldn't be running campaigns perpetuating the idea that it's up to pedestrians to stay safe while they're crossing the street. Our laws, too concerned with maximizing vehicle throughput, need to be altered so that pedestrian safety is more of a priority. Use Northern Virginia's special exception as a framework to reform code across the state. Design our streets, roads, intersections, and crosswalks to be safer for those on foot. Or use Minnesota law as an example to prioritize pedestrian safety in all reasonable situations. Virginia, or whoever's made it this far in the video, has the chance to be a true model for the United States. We can show that we're fed up with disproportionately high pedestrian death rates. We can show that we truly care about those outside of vehicles. We can show that all things can be equal. Finally, we need to come together and understand that no, pedestrians are not just as much of a risk as cars are. Drivers must understand that pedestrians must be treated like human beings just trying to get where they need to go like everyone else. They are not an inconvenience on your way to pick up a tub of mayo from Costco. Or maybe pedestrians should just start dressing like birds to get cars to stop. To mixed success, I suppose. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. I really just wanted to take a moment and thank everyone for what has been an incredible response to my previous video. I spent a good 3 months doing absolutely nothing related to YouTube because I simply did not have the willpower transitioning to adult life, and seeing the response for what I just uploaded has been beyond what I could have ever expected. Frankly, it's humbling, and I really appreciate everyone's support. I could not have imagined such a positive return to my YouTube channel, so I really appreciate it. That's the bottom line. Thank you everyone for watching and commenting and supporting the video. It is now my best performing video I've ever released so far, so thank you. And I wanted to turn it back to everyone. I have, frankly, a list of feasibly way too many ideas to get to for YouTube videos, but in terms of topics I should cover in the future, I would love to hear from everyone as to specific things that I should cover, whether it be in the Richmond, Virginia area or something more abstract, something just related to the entire country, or whatever you may find interesting. Just leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But again, thank you all very much for watching this video and supporting my previous videos. You'll be hearing more from me soon.
Conveniently, whenever that traffic turns red, it gets very backed up. So I could cross the street right now. That would not prove my point. Why would I want anything that would disprove me in this video? I need to seem like I know what I'm talking about. What is this? You want me to be challenged? You want my beliefs to be challenged? No.